Hello and welcome back to another episode. We're here, we're talking international football. There's been plenty going on. If you've been listening in the weeks prior, you know we've been reviewing and we've also been previewing the Pacific Championships, also the Australian England series, the Ashes series. It's all going on. We're in the midst of it right now with final games and finals just around the corner this weekend. So stick around. We're going to be talking lots of national football. Let's start with Australia, England. Game 2 just happened. It went almost the way that we discussed it would last week. Australia were just too good. Australia are now 2-0 in the series, and we have won and retained the Ashes. England, another loss against Australia. They continue their drought. They have not won a test against Australia since 1970. That is 55 years without a win against the green and gold. That is pretty incredible in itself. Not if you're an English fan, supporter, English person, but if you're Australia, you're loving that stat. Let's talk about the game though. Let's start with the line marking or lack of lines that were making it very difficult for the players and the referees. So the 10, or quote unquote, the 10 was very rough all game, and you can't blame the refs for it. They did their best. I don't know what was going on with the groundsman. You'd think they knew in advance that this was happening. You'd think whether they had a game the night before or a week before, they would have that ready for that game. You would think that they would do that. But anyway, we'll move on. Let's talk about the actual game, not just the field markings. The first half was close. It was scrappy. It was a bit stop and start. It was a bit of a tug of war. Mistake prone from both sides. Only penalty goals in terms of scoring in the first half. Cleary showing his class, showing why he's the master, showing why he's the best halfback in the world at the moment with that freakish 40-20 in that first half, not long before halftime itself. He is an absolute beast at that point, at that part of his kicking game. Let's talk about Walsh. Reece Walsh could win the Golden Boot. He could be the best player in the world. Now, he didn't have an excellent performance in Game 2, not quite the same as Game 1. He still played relatively well, but his mistakes were significant and they made an impact to his team. He could win the Golden Boot, but he's still so immature. On the field, off the field. We'll talk about on the field, though. He gave away a penalty, at half, pretty much just at half, allowing England to tie the game and kick a penalty goal. And also that mid-air tackle on Dom Young and putting himself in the bin as a result of that. It just shows he still has a long way to go in terms of being the ultimate professional, the ultimate teammate on the field. He's talented as all get out. He plays lights out. When he's in form, when he has the ball in his hand, he can do some of the most incredible things that we've seen in a very, very long time on the park. But then he pulls out this crap too. Now he's young. What is he, 22, 23? He's young. But as we start to go into season after season, we can't use that excuse any longer. It's time for him to buck up, considering now he's playing for Australia, playing for Queensland, won a premiership, going to then head into being a senior leader at the Brisbane Broncos. He needs to tighten his game up. He can't be tackling people mid-air, whether he was acting as if he was going for the ball or not, but he had turned, he didn't have eyes for the ball. He basically was just there for contact to disrupt Dom Young. Whether Dom was going to catch the ball or not, there was no intention to catch from Reece. It was just get in there, disrupt Dominic, and whatever happens, happens. It was silly. It's inexcusable, because if that was a very close game and he puts himself in the sin bin for 10 minutes and he's one of the best players on the park, if he does that, you lose a little bit of respect from your teammates. Now, it didn't end up playing a huge factor in this particular game, but if this is against New Zealand in a Pacific Championship, or a World Cup rather, final, and he goes and does that and it plays a significant role in the outcome of a game, that's where it's going to start to cause a lot of issues and potential rifts if he maintains this type of stuff in his game. Now, hopefully, he can continue to soak up professionalism, leadership aspects from those particular leaders at the club and in Australian camps and in Queensland camps from the likes of Munster, Cleary, Adam Reynolds, Patrick Carrigan, Isaiah Yeo, Harry Grant, the list goes on. If he can soak all that up, if he can take it on board and then try to instill it in his game and try and get rid of you're never going to get rid of the recklessness entirely, because that is what makes his game so dynamic and so exciting, is because he's willing to chance his arm. He's willing to go for a gap, put a kick through, go down a short side, throw that pass. It's what makes him great, but it's also what can bring errors into his game. So you're never going to get rid of it completely, and you kind of understand that and you accept that. It's the same with Nwangani Tawase. You accept that because of the brilliance on the positive side. But the recklessness, the immaturity, that stuff needs to start shifting away from his game and the game and his life outside of football. Now, who the fuck am I to tell him how he's going to live his life? But he's a big personality. He has a big name. There's a lot of kids that have eyes on how he acts on and off the field. So he has a certain responsibility in that regard. But until he shifts away from this, it's going to cause some, how should I say, I can't think of the word, but it's going to be an issue in games if they're close, if they're important. But anyway, moving on. Let's talk about England. Like we said last week, England were going to put up a fight early, and they did for pretty much the whole first half. Now, errors stopped both sides putting more points on the board, but Australia should have had a lead at least at halftime. Australia then just started to show their class in that second half. We started to have more possession. We started to chance our arm a little bit more. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But England just started to break down, essentially. The gap of talent, of big game experience, of training, relationships within the team, that all started, the gap with all those started to show immensely in that second half, despite the scoreboard with what it actually said at the end of the game. Australia were way, way, way better. If you just do the eye test, Australia looked so much better in that second half than England did. England was struggling to have success finishing their sets, which shows a lack of pedigree in the halves. Poor last tackle options, just passing it on last tackle when there was nothing really on. It was man on man defenders, and you're just cutting it out to the winger, giving them no space whatsoever to do anything to give the English any sort of chance of putting points on the board. And it just shows that there is a lack of high caliber halves that England can select from at the moment. But if the stats were correct, England ended the game with 0 line breaks. That is an amazing stat, because normally there's one person or one set that you put something on and it works, or you have a half break and it ends up being an offload into another break or something. Usually you have something. But no, there was nothing. Nothing from England. AJ Brimson tried his heart out. Herbie Farnworth, when he actually got the ball, tried his hardest to find something, some sort of inkling into the Australian defence to then do something and have a chance to put some points on the scoreboard, but to ill effect. Australia, though. In saying how bad England were, in saying that, though, Australia were just so many errors, and maybe that's from maybe too much confidence, maybe trying to do too much with the ball. Australia should have won by 30, not 10. For England, though, that's 14 points in their last 4 tests against Australia. That is not good enough. If you're the coaching staff, you're tearing your hair out watching them because they just cannot do anything in attack. Defensively, we saw in game 1, out of position, lack of communication. Game 2 was better, but still just Australia just have the ability to get offloads and break through the line with ease at certain points. So it just shows that the gap between the Super League and the NRL has maybe never been bigger than what it is right now. It's incredible because, and the perfect example of this is when NRL players who can't quite cut it here in Australia, they end up going to the Super League, and how many of those players have won the Man of Steel award? Who's Bevan French, Jackson Hastings, Brodie Croft. That's just 3 off the top of my head, who all had somewhat large stints in the NRL, couldn't quite then make it, consistently starting games for teams, and then they go over to the Super League and they win their equivalent to the Dally M. That just shows that the talent pool is completely different. Now, in England, to their defence, union and soccer are so much bigger than league, whereas here in Australia, league is at the top, if not the most popular sport in Australia. So, what does England do? I don't know. They need to do something. They need to try and maybe do what Tonga and Samoa have been doing and just trying to have a bit of a revolution of sorts in terms of their recruitment, in terms of who they can introduce into their squad, who they can try and coax over defect to England rather than Australia, rather than New Zealand, wherever else they may be playing for right now. That's about all you can kind of do. It's hard to tell if the coach is the man for the job because no one's really getting results. Maybe you just wait for these veterans to kind of fall out of the system, whether it be by retirement or performance, and then just hope that the next wave has a lot more talent and skill and ability to be coached in a way that you need to be coached when going up against the best of the best of the best. For Australia, you take a little bit of a reset. You think, okay, there was a lot of points to be had left out there that we didn't put on the scoreboard. Let's take a little bit of a reset. Let's simplify things somewhat and just kind of take what the defense is giving us rather than, oh, that worked last week. Let's do that again and again and again. It's not working. Oh, maybe it's time to pivot. Something like that, maybe. We'll talk about a little bit of Game 3 and what I think entails for that game. But first, we're going to talk New Zealand, Tonga. Beautiful game if you're a New Zealand fan. Horrible game if you're a Tongan fan. New Zealand dominate the first half. New Zealand dominate time of possession. Both halves for New Zealand were controlling the game really well. 2 veterans now, one a little bit more experienced than Kieran Foran, and Dylan Brown, who's a veteran of the game. Keanu Kinney out the back was electric, playing his natural game. I'm so glad they brought him and pushed him into the side. Chance is great. Chance was not doing anything wrong to lose that number 1, but he's more versatile. Chance can play that 6. Chance can play in the centres, whereas Kinney, you're kind of wasting him on the wing. We haven't quite seen what he can do at the 6 or the centre. Fullback is where he shines the brightest, and shine he did. Katoa, though, for Tonga, little shy in the first half, a little bit more involved in the second half because he had to be. New Zealand were putting it on them every chance they got. Casey McLean, exceptional again. New Zealand's going to have him for the next 10 years, and that should excite the Kiwis. Tarpany, he wasn't super involved, but when he was, it made an impact. And it just shows the type of leader he is when he's having more of an impact than the likes of James Fisher-Harris or Nufahu White. Those studs and big-time leaders and just big boys in general who have a great presence, when Tarpany is outshining them in the physical battle, when he's taking hit up after hit up and he's making meters and he's offloading and meters after contact, that type of thing, when he's showing those others in that team up, that just shows the type of caliber of player that Joseph Tarpany is. And he's instrumental to New Zealand's success this year, particularly after a lackluster performance in the Pacific Championships last year. Dylan Brown was exceptional off and on the ball. If you're a Knights fan, you are praying that he plays like this in Newcastle from next season on. His running the ball was immaculate. He didn't overdo it. He picked his times and it worked. He supported, like I said, off the ball. He was also really good, which is what you want as a half. Especially as a running half, he has the eye for it. And he has the eye that when someone takes off, he's there. Or next play, get a quick play of the ball. Next play, he's there to run ball because he's that type of half. Excuse me. New Zealand's spine, I think Cooper Cronk alluded to this in the broadcast, but the spine almost had a run-first mentality. Phoenix Crosland, obviously a half playing hooker. Tamate Martin, a running half when he's feeling like it. Dylan Brown, a running half. Even Kieran Foran getting in there and getting physical. You love to see it because it was just meters after meters after meters, working their way down the field, doing what they wanted against the Tongan defense. Tonga, not playing up to the newfound expectations for this nation, especially this year. It is a young playing group, though. They need more time to develop relationships and create cohesion. Now, who knows what it could look like next year? Is Taumalolo going to stay in there? You'd think the likes of Aden would still be there. Havili, he's getting up there in age. So Katoa's only, 20 or 21? He needs more time. Lehigh Hapa is very young. Katoa's also dealing with a fullback as his halves partner. So Tonga need to sort something out with getting Katoa a better option at 6. I understand why Ongi's there because of Lehigh, but it's not quite working. But like I said, it's a young playing group. They will improve. They have to improve. Like I said, newfound expectations. They have to do something. They have to find a way to be competitive with New Zealand again. You can't have this drop-off and be considered a Tier 2 nation again. Now, they are Tier 2, but we've considered them now over the last 2-3 years, them and Samoa, to be a Tier 2 nation that competes like a Tier 1 nation. That's how we view them. Now, it'd be interesting to see how Samoa go against New Zealand. We'll talk a little bit about that soon. But let's talk. That's the reviews done. That's the reviews. Now let's talk Game 3 of the Ashes series, Australia versus England. I expect some debutants for Australia again. I would expect Harry Grant to take you know what? I don't know. Maybe Blake Brayley comes off the bench, to be honest. Maybe Harry plays half a game instead of a full game. Maybe Mitch Moses gets a crack. Bradman Best might get a crack. Who else is in there that could get a crack? Can't think of any at the moment. We just wait for the team list, but I expect some more debutants. I expect England to be a little bit demoralised, a little bit down on their game for Game 3. They've lost the Ashes series. It's not like it's been close. They've been there or thereabouts. They've been poor. The performances have been underwhelming. I don't think you're going to get a good one out of it, even though it's a dead rubber match. I don't think they're going to give you a tough one. But that being said, Australia still need to bring their A game, because when they're off, they can allow some points because they can get a little bit lazy. They can get a little bit nonchalant, and that's when the points start to flow for the opposition. So Australia, there'll be some debutants. They want to prove themselves, so I don't see that happening. But they still need to play well. But I fully expect this to be a 3-0 series, as did a lot of people going into it. Australia are just too good. Best in the world. Have been forever. It's just the way it is. So not much to really preview in terms of this game. We just wait and see the team list to then have those potential debutants be the factor going into this third game. All right. Pacific Championship final. New Zealand versus Samoa, the rematch. They only played a couple of weeks ago. New Zealand won that one, so they're going to have confidence going into this one that they can do a job against Samoa. Samoa will be looking for revenge. They'll be looking to put it to New Zealand and prove that they are one of the best nations in the world. Like I just said with Tonga. Samoa, the same pot. They are a Tier 2 nation who are competing like a Tier 1 team. I expect New Zealand to be doing similar things in attack to what they did against Tonga. They'll be throwing the ball around. They'll be giving early ball to Timoko and McLean, seeing what they can do. I fully expect Keanu Kinney to be at the number 1 once again. He played too well for him to go back to the squad. Chan's probably in the centres or maybe on the wing with Mulatalo out. Foreign, this will be his last last professional rugby league game. After this, that'll be it for the veteran, and it'll be pretty sad to see, to be honest, because he's had a wonderful career. We've talked about him before. I can't wait to see him go into coaching, but this will be his last game, and it's pretty cool that it's going to be in a black jersey. Samoa, Jerome Luai. Jerome Luai is going to be the key. Roger will have a good game. Roger will rack up those run meters whether they win or lose. It's going to be up to Jerome to control the sets, to control the attack, get the boys where they need to be on the field to set up plays, to have a chance to execute the things that they've been working on in camp for the last almost month now. To put points on the board. That's what they need to do. They struggled at times in the first game against New Zealand, but there was flashes of brilliance. There was flashes of brilliance, and then against Tonga, they had no trouble scoring points. Samoa try after try after try after try. Even after that lengthy storm break, they went straight back into it, bang, bang, bang. So they have no problem scoring points. But up against a better team in New Zealand, that's where Jerome Luai needs to take the reins even more so, and he just needs to be, you there, you get to there, all right, you out the back, this is what's on, get that out to the winger, all right, back line here, yada, 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 X here, yeah, off me, yeah, this side here, yeah, get to that post, yada, everything. Jerome needs to be everything. He needs to take what he's seen Cleary do so many times on the field. He needs to take that, embody that, and just direct every single person about every single thing on that game. He needs to do that if Samoa are a chance. Let everyone else do their thing once they know what's going on and once they're in position, because they have skill, they have talent with Roger. Dean Mariner's had an unreal series. They've got the big boys up front to do the work, to get them down the field, to lead them around in the middle. Jerome needs to direct and execute off the back of that. If he can do that for the full game, if he can do that, Samoa will win this game. I'm telling you, he's got it in him. It's not his natural game. He's a natural 5'8", but he's seen it so many times. He's been right next to it so many times, and he has had to do it in parts for Tigers, in parts when Cleary's been injured, in parts for New Zealand, for New South Wales. He has got it in him, but he needs to do it for the full 80 minutes. If New Zealand just run what they want to do at Samoa and just score 30, 40 points, Samoa just don't have, they can't win shootouts like that. But if their defense is strong, if Jerome Luai leads them up the field and executes what he calls, Samoa can win this game. Now, in saying that, I think New Zealand will win this game. I think they're too high class. I think they have too much confidence knowing their ability of what they've done to Samoa in the first game and then what they just did to Tonga as well. But Samoa can win this, and there are ways for Samoa to win this game. And it starts with Jerome Luai. It starts and ends with Jerome Luai. He's the man to get the job done. It's just up to him now. It is all up to him. But I think New Zealand will win. All right. This is all going to be very, very interesting this final week, because next year we're going into a World Cup year. Nations need to qualify. Teams need to build relationships in camps that they can have a running start going into next year. So it's all very interesting and all gives you a slight inkling into how this may play out next year. Next week, though, after this has all been said and done, after the final game between Australia and England, after the Pacific Championship final, we will then do the top 10 international players based on Test Series form alone. I'm not talking Super League or NRL form. I'm talking international Test form alone. Top 10 international players will be out next week after we review those final games. All right, that's it. That'll do it. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your time. Till next week, enjoy. See you later.